Pacifica is still Pacifica. This has been your man, Stan. Join me for another day in our city of dreams.
Night City, the so-called City of Dreams, is one of the greatest settings I've ever witnessed in storytelling history. We all know Night City to be one of those classic big cities filled with crime type of setting, but there's so much more to this city burger than meets the eye. Night City is actually an oasis in the sea of death that is the NUSA. Quoting from the book of Cyberpunk Red, large parts of the East Coast and the South went underwater or partially became swampland, or remains of New Orleans ended up on stilts, and Houston rapidly found itself with a much increased local alligator population. In the Great Plains and Southwest, whole regions became desert in only a few years. Unhampered by tree cover, violent winds scoured the land with driving sandstorm. Also, LA is just completely and entirely gone. It was hit by a 10.5 earthquake in 1998, and to quote the book, there was more to come. The authors really just had straight beef with LA, and I can respect that, 100%. With all that chaos around, Night City, at least from an outsider's view, doesn't seem all too bad. However, it still wasn't safe from one of the most tragic events in the cyberpunk world, the fall of the net. Thanks to Raish Bartmoss, bastard he is, the net that we know has been taken down to this data crash virus, leaving anything beyond a local LAN connection filled with dangerous AI. This means all those favorite YouTube videos you had as a kid, gone. You don't have those anymore. You didn't need those anymore. You're a tougher man for this. Trust me, lad. A year later, international trade was broken down, leaving many megacorps to collapse. However, Night City still stood through it all. When looking deeper into Night City, things become a little more hectic. Saying the world of Cyberpunk Red being the same as our game and show universe is a non-starter. Certain events just don't line up, and the map structure doesn't look quite the same. You could chalk it up to the Earth naturally shifting, but shifting in just 20 years to look incredibly different just doesn't sit right. Still, that doesn't mean we can't draw inspiration from the city's history from the book like Project Red did. During the time of the Red, there were overpacked suburbs, rebuilding urbans, executive, and a hot zone. However, the most interesting of all the territories were the combat zone, stretching beneath the bottom of the main island in the Night City. In these parts, it makes the rest of the Night City seem downright lawful in comparison. The police don't bother patrolling, leaving the leaders of these zones to be typically gang leaders. Fast forward to 2077, these lawless zones has migrated mostly to Pacifica, and I believe the industrial zone of Watson. Correct me if I'm wrong though. Now don't get me wrong, each area still has its representative gang, some of who enforce their own unspoken law on the streets. However, these gangs know better than to stand in the way of the NCPD's agenda, which is usually to make money and go on power trips.
Has finished his search, and everything appears to be in order. Mr. Puggins is free to carry on. But before hitting the road, don't forget to extend a small token of your appreciation for the police officer's service.
The executive zone moved back into the heart of Night City that we know and love. This area is the one place, excluding Morro Rock, that doesn't have any gang or nomad influence. This carries different feels to each section of the city. In Maelstrom Turf, you might find more people with cybernetics. Meanwhile, on 6th Street Turf, you know you'll find more veterans on the street than usual, who usually have a hate boner for the current mayor.
4 stations. You shoot at the targets with hold its face in the time limit. More bootlickers you pop, the better.
You get the general idea. With each fixer of an area complementing the vibe of their section, it's really the synthetic cherry on top. Taking a small step back before we start talking about the people of this fine city, I wanted to compliment 2077 on its character background, as it encompasses the entirety of Night City and its population. Starting from the very bottom of the food chain, we have the street kid, no money to his name, and at best a few connections that he's made while living in Night City. The street kid archetype is the vast majority of the people in Night City. Moving up a small notch, but just barely, we have the nomad. Nomads typically run in groups. However, for V, the most they're bringing into Night City is their ride. As well as an iguana, I suppose. Nomads encompass the outsider's perspective of Night City, as they get to learn firsthand what the City of Dreams is truly made of. Finally, we have the Corpo background. These people are the top of the food chain, more often than not living in half-decent apartments, if not better, and working a casual 9 to 5. The corporations and their employees are most often looked down upon by anyone that isn't a corpo. However, when the problems are 47 floors below you, why would you have to worry about them? Oh yeah, that's right, corporate sabotage. Damn it, forgot about that. All these backgrounds are brought into line for the start of Cyberpunk 2077, thanks to Jackie. And more often than not, the backgrounds are just extra dialogue options and to help mark which run you're currently on. The Street Kid background has a unique mission, which is rather neat though. I just don't recall finding the secret mission for the other two, if they exist. Now moving forward to analyze the final part of Night City as a setting, the people who live there. I'm going to start off swinging strong, and we are going to do our two protagonists first. V and David. When heavily boiled down, and I do mean heavily, they somewhat follow the same route. Two new mercs on the street go and take odd jobs to make ends meet. They take an especially hard job since they fuck with Arasaka, and someone close to them dies. Because of this, they now majorly up their game, and start making a name for themselves on the street. They're eventually pushed into messing with Arasaka again. Adam Smasher kills one of their friends, and they die. Obviously, the characters aren't the same. David gets women, and V gets Johnny Silverhand.
If I need your body, I'll fucking...
However, through their eyes, we can learn the messing with the big shot corporations doesn't usually go very well. Because the truth is, the game was rigged from the start. Now if we go to the other Legends of Night City, we see a different view of everything. The rocker boy, Johnny Silverhand, with a deep-rooted hatred for Arasaka. Raish Bartmoss, the netrunner that killed the old net. Rogue, the queen of fixers and unspoken ruler of the afterlife. Bess Isis, the media who's not afraid to get her hands dirty for a good story. Finally, the infamous Morgan Blackhand, the solo who casually squares up against Smasher. Each of these people have a different reason to push onto the next day in Night City. Johnny, from what I'm able to gather, wishes to get people angry and rile them up, enough to cause problems for corporations. Rage continued doing what he loved even after his physical body died. Rogue, from what I understand, holds their position in order to feel powerful in Night City. Bess Isis releases the truth onto the net in hopes that just a few readers will have their eyes open, while Morgan Blackhand seems to mostly just go for the highest bidder. These people, although legendary in status, are not all too different from the aspirations that and drives the denizens of Night City have. Cyberpunk 2077 holds a strange place in my heart. It's like the 2-week drive to play Minecraft that all people randomly get. There will eventually come a day where I can no longer differentiate my save files apart from each other because I'll have multiple characters with the same background. Please, Project Red, give me New Game Plus, and my life is yours. During any missions on the outskirts of Night City, it gives a strange vibe knowing that the dust storms and long desert roads afflict a good chunk of the NUSA, turning Night City into an ironic oasis. Once you're out of the hell where the nomads roam, then you'll have to deal with the varying gangs that run the city. The people who rise above, the Edgerunners, are not heroes more often than not. Each of these elements drag me into Night City and I simply can't take any steps back. I want to roam these streets. I want to discover more about the areas and the people that live here. I've been running Cyberpunk Red with a small group in real life, and I enjoy the world building more than making the encounters. I would love to talk about this game more in the future. 10,000 views and I'll make an in-depth lore analysis on Johnny Silverman. But in the meantime, I'm off to start a new run in the City of Dreams.
All Night City. Good night and good luck.